When I was a child, I believed in magic. Not the kind you find in storybooks, but the kind that lingers in the hush of the forest at dusk, in the way the wind whispers secrets through the trees, in the way my mother's voice softened when she told me tales of wolves who could become men and men who could become monsters. I clung to those stories, even as the world around me grew colder, even as the villagers' eyes slid past me like I was a shadow, not a girl. I was the daughter of the healer, the one who never shifted, the one who never belonged. They called me Mira the meek, Mira the mundane, Mira the mistake. I learned to keep my head down, to move quietly, to make myself small. But inside, I was a storm. I dreamed of running with the pack, of feeling the earth beneath my paws, of howling at the moon with a voice that could not be ignored. I dreamed of being chosen, of being seen. But dreams are dangerous things in a world ruled by wolves. The night, everything changed. The moon was full and heavy, hanging low over the village like a watchful eye. I was gathering herbs at the edge of the forest, my basket heavy with yarrow and wild mint, when I heard the first scream. It was a sound that split the night, sharp and desperate, and it sent a chill racing down my spine. I froze, heart pounding, every instinct screaming at me to run. But I couldn't move. Not when the screams kept coming, not when the air filled with the scent of blood and fear. I crept closer, the underbrush snagging at my skirts, my breath shallow and quick. Through the trees, I saw them, wolves, huge and silver-eyed, their fur bristling, their teeth bared. And in the center of it all, a man stood with his back to me, his body tense, his hands slick with blood. He was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, all sharp angles and coiled power, his hair dark as midnight, his eyes burning gold in the moonlight. I knew him, though I'd never spoken to him. Everyone knew the Alpha, Darien. He was the king of our kind, the one who ruled with a word, the one who could break a man with a glance. He was a legend, a warning, a promise. And tonight, he was a monster. The villagers cowered before him, their faces pale, their bodies trembling. I saw my mother among them, her hands raised in supplication, her voice lost in the chaos. "Please," she begged, "she's just a child." Darien's gaze swept the crowd, cold and unyielding. "The curse demands a sacrifice," he said, his voice low and terrible. "The blood of the unshifted. Bring her to me." For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, all eyes turned to me. I wanted to run. I wanted to disappear. But my feet were rooted to the earth, my body heavy with dread. The villagers surged forward, their hands rough and desperate, dragging me from the shadows. I fought, but it was useless. I was nothing to them. Less than nothing. They brought me to Darien, and he looked at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "You're the healer's daughter," he said, almost to himself. "The one who never changed." I stared up at him, my fear warring with something fiercer. "I'm not afraid of you," I lied. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You should be." He raised his hand, and the world went dark. When I woke, I was alone. The air was thick with the scent of moss and stone, the walls cold and damp beneath my fingers. I was in a cell, deep beneath the Alpha's keep. My head throbbed, my body aching from where they'd dragged me. I pressed my palms to my eyes, willing myself not to cry. Footsteps echoed in the corridor, slow and deliberate. The door creaked open, and Darien stepped inside, his presence filling the tiny space. He crouched before me, his eyes searching mine. "Why you?" he asked, almost curious. "Why did the curse choose you?" I shook my head, my voice barely a whisper. "I don't know." He studied me for a long moment, then reached out, his fingers brushing my cheek. I flinched, but he didn't pull away. "The curse is old," he said quietly. "Older than this kingdom. It demands a price, and tonight, it demanded you." I swallowed hard, my heart hammering in my chest. "What happens now?" He stood, his shadow looming over me. "Now you wait, and you pray the curse is satisfied." He left me there, alone in the darkness, my thoughts spinning. I tried to remember the stories my mother told me, The ones where the girl outsmarts the monster, where kindness is stronger than cruelty, where love breaks every curse. But those stories felt far away, like dreams I'd once had and forgotten. The hours passed slowly, marked only by the drip of water and the distant howls of wolves. I lost track of time, lost track of myself. Hunger gnawed at my belly, fear at my mind. I wondered if anyone would come for me, if anyone even cared. But then, in the deepest part of the night, the door opened again. This time, it wasn't Darien who entered, but an old woman, her hair silver, her eyes sharp as flint. She carried a tray of food, which she set before me without a word. I stared at her, my voice hoarse. "Why am I here?" She looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. "Because you are different."
They ate breakfast together, the conversation light and full of inside jokes. Zoe felt the tension from the night before start to fade, replaced by the comfort of routine. But every time Ethan's eyes met hers, she felt a spark, a silent conversation that neither of them dared to speak aloud. After breakfast, Olivia announced she had to run to the library to finish a group project. "You can come with or just hang here," she said, grabbing her bag. Zoe hesitated, glancing at Ethan. "I'll stay. I have some reading to catch up on." Olivia shrugged. "Suit yourself. Don't let Ethan eat all the snacks." When the door closed behind her, the apartment felt suddenly too quiet. Zoe busied herself with her book, but she could feel Ethan's presence in the next room, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on her. A few minutes later, he appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame. "You really staying to read, or are you just avoiding the library?" She looked up, her cheeks flushing. "A little of both." He smiled, crossing the room to sit beside her on the couch. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was thick, charged with possibility. Finally, Ethan broke it. "Zoe, can I ask you something?" She nodded, her heart pounding. "Do you ever think about us? I mean, not as Olivia's best friend and her brother, but as something else." Zoe's breath caught. She stared at him, searching his face for a sign that he was joking. But his eyes were serious, vulnerable. "All the time," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He let out a shaky breath, relief flickering across his face. "Me too. I know it's complicated. I know Olivia would freak if she found out. But I can't help it, Zoe. I like you. More than I should." She felt a rush of emotion, fear, excitement, hope. "What are we supposed to do?" He reached for her hand, his touch gentle. "I don't know. But I don't want to pretend anymore." They sat together, hands entwined, the world narrowing to just the two of them. For the first time, Zoe let herself imagine what it would be like to be with him, to hold his hand in public, to kiss him without looking over her shoulder, to love him without fear. But reality crashed back in as the front door opened and Olivia's voice echoed down the hall. They sprang apart, guilt and longing warring in Zoe's chest. Olivia breezed into the room, dropping her bag on the floor. "You guys look like you've seen a ghost." Ethan laughed, a little too loudly. "Just talking about the game this weekend." Olivia rolled her eyes. "You two and your sports. I swear I'll never understand it." Zoe forced a smile, her heart still racing. She knew they couldn't keep this up forever. Sooner or later they'd have to make a choice. Risk everything for a chance at something real, or bury their feelings and pretend nothing had ever happened. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Zoe tried to focus on her homework, on the movie Olivia insisted they watch, on anything but the way Ethan's hand had felt in hers. But every time she looked at him, she saw the same longing in his eyes, the same question hanging between them. That night, as she lay in Olivia's bed, listening to her best friend's steady breathing, Zoe stared at the ceiling, her mind spinning. She knew what she wanted. She wanted Ethan. But wanting him meant risking everything. Her friendship with Olivia, the family that had become her own, the life she'd built. She closed her eyes, willing herself to sleep. But the truth was impossible to ignore. Some loves were easy. Some loves were safe. But the love she felt for Ethan was neither. It was wild, dangerous, and utterly irresistible. And as the rain began to fall outside, Zoe knew that no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't walk away. The days that followed were a study in restraint. Zoe found herself hyper-aware of every moment she spent at Olivia's house, every glance Ethan sent her way, every accidental brush of his hand. She tried to act normal, to laugh at Olivia's jokes and join in on family dinners, but inside she was a storm of nerves and longing. Ethan seemed to feel it too. He was quieter than usual, his smile softer, his eyes lingering on Zoe a little too long. Sometimes when Olivia left the room, their gazes would meet and hold, a silent conversation passing between them. It was thrilling and terrifying all at once. One afternoon, Olivia invited Zoe over to help plan her birthday party. They sat cross-legged on the living room floor, surrounded by magazines and Pinterest boards, debating cake flavors and decorations. Ethan drifted in and out, offering suggestions and making them laugh with his terrible puns. At one point, Olivia left to take a call in the kitchen, leaving Zoe and Ethan alone. The room felt suddenly too small, the air charged. Ethan sat beside her, his voice low. "I can't stop thinking about you." Zoe's heart skipped. "Me neither." He reached for her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "I wish things were different." She squeezed his hand, her voice barely a whisper. "Me too." They sat in silence, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on them. When Olivia returned, they sprang apart, guilt written across their faces. That night, Zoe went home and tried to distract herself with homework, but her mind kept drifting back to Ethan. She replayed every moment, every word, every touch. She knew she was falling for him, had already fallen really, and there was no going back. The next weekend, Olivia's birthday arrived. The house was packed with friends and family, the air buzzing with excitement. Zoe helped set up decorations, her nerves jangling every time she caught sight of Ethan across the room. As the night wore on, the party spilled out into the backyard. Strings of fairy lights twinkled overhead, and music drifted through the warm air. Zoe found herself standing alone by the fence, watching as Olivia danced with her friends. Ethan appeared at her side, his presence grounding. "You okay?" She nodded, her voice soft. "Just needed some air." He glanced around, making sure no one was watching, then reached for her hand. "Come with me." They slipped away from the crowd, weaving through the shadows until they reached the side of the house. Ethan stopped, turning to face her, his eyes searching. "I can't keep pretending, Zoe. I want you. I know it's complicated and I know it might hurt Olivia, but I can't help how I feel." Zoe's breath caught. She looked up at him, her heart pounding. "I want you too, Ethan. I've tried to fight it, but I can't." He stepped closer, his hands trembling as he cupped her face. "Tell me to stop and I will. But if you want this, if you want me, I'm yours." She didn't hesitate. She closed the distance between them, her lips finding his in a kiss that was soft at first, then hungry, desperate. It felt like coming home and leaping off a cliff all at once. When they finally pulled apart, Ethan rested his forehead against hers, his voice shaky. "We can't let Olivia find out." "Not yet." Zoe nodded, guilt twisting in her chest. "I know. But I don't want to lose you." He squeezed her hands, his eyes fierce. "You won't. We'll figure it out." They slipped back into the party, their secret burning between them. Zoe tried to act normal, to laugh and dance and celebrate her best friend, but every time she looked at Ethan, she felt the world tilt. Later, as the party wound down and guests began to leave, Olivia pulled Zoe aside, her eyes bright with happiness. "Thank you for everything. I don't know what I'd do without you." Zoe hugged her tightly, guilt prickling at her skin. "I'll always be here for you, Liv. Always." That night, Zoe lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning. She knew what she was doing was wrong. She knew she was risking everything, her friendship, her place in Olivia's family, her own heart. But she also knew she couldn't stop. Loving Ethan felt inevitable, like gravity. The next morning, she woke to a text from Ethan. "Meet me at the park. 10 a.m. I need to see you." Her heart leapt. She dressed quickly, slipping out of the house before Olivia woke. The park was quiet, the air crisp with the promise of fall. Ethan was waiting by the old oak tree, his hands shoved in his pockets. When he saw her, his face lit up. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like he never wanted to let go. "I missed you," he whispered. She smiled, her worries melting away. "I missed you too." They sat together on the grass, talking about everything and nothing, their hands entwined. For a little while, the world faded away and it was just the two of them. No secrets, no fear, just love. But as the sun climbed higher and the city woke around them, reality crept back in. Zoe knew they couldn't hide forever. Sooner or later they'd have to face the truth. But for now she let herself be happy. For now she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, forbidden love could find a way. The weeks that followed were a blur of stolen moments and secret smiles. Zoe and Ethan became experts at hiding in plain sight, meeting in quiet corners of the city, exchanging texts late at night, finding excuses to linger after family dinners. Every touch, every glance, every whispered word felt electric, charged with the thrill of what they were risking. Zoe's world became a balancing act. She spent her days with Olivia, laughing and sharing secrets, all the while keeping the biggest secret of all locked tight inside her chest. She hated lying to her best friend, hated the guilt that gnawed at her every time Olivia smiled. But she couldn't let go of Ethan. He was the missing piece she hadn't known she needed, the person who made her feel seen in a way no one else ever had. Ethan felt it too. He was softer with Zoe, more open than she'd ever seen him. He told her things he'd never told anyone, about the pressure he felt to be perfect, about the dreams he'd given up on, about the loneliness that sometimes crept in late at night. With her, he didn't have to pretend. With her, he could just be. One Saturday, Olivia suggested a road trip to the beach. "Just us," she said, grinning. "We haven't had a girl's day in forever." Zoe's heart sank. She wanted to spend time with Olivia, but the thought of being away from Ethan, even for a day, made her chest ache. Still, she agreed, knowing she couldn't keep making excuses. They spent the day driving along the coast, singing along to old songs, eating greasy fries at a roadside diner. For a while it felt like old times, just two best friends, no secrets, no complications. But every time Zoe's phone buzzed with a message from Ethan, she felt the distance between who she was and who she was pretending to be. That night, as they sat on the sand watching the waves, Olivia turned to her, her expression serious. "You've been different lately, Zoe. Is everything okay?" Zoe's heart pounded. She forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a lot on my mind, I guess." Olivia studied her for a moment, then nodded. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" Guilt twisted in Zoe's stomach. "I know." They drove home in silence, the radio filling the space between them. Zoe stared out the window, wondering how much longer she could keep this up. When she got home, Ethan was waiting for her outside her apartment. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "I missed you," he murmured. She buried her face in his chest, breathing in the scent of him. "I missed you too." They sat together on the steps, talking about everything and nothing. Zoe told him about the beach, about Olivia's questions, about the guilt that was starting to eat her alive. Ethan listened, his hand warm in hers. "Maybe we should tell her," he said quietly. "I hate lying to her. She deserves the truth." Zoe nodded, tears stinging her eyes. "I know, but I'm scared, Ethan. What if she hates me? What if I lose her?" He cupped her face in his hands, his gaze steady. "You won't lose me. No matter what happens, I'm here." She leaned into his touch, letting his words steady her. "I just wish things were simpler." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Me too. But I don't regret loving you. Not for a second." They sat together until the sky turned pink with dawn, the city waking around them. Zoe knew they couldn't hide forever. Sooner or later the truth would come out. But for now, she let herself hold on to the happiness they'd found, even if it was borrowed. The next week, Olivia invited Zoe over for dinner. The house was full of laughter and the smell of Olivia's mom's famous lasagna. Ethan was there, of course, and every time their eyes met across the table, Zoe felt her heart skip. After dinner, Olivia dragged Zoe up to her room, flopping onto the bed. "Okay, spill. Who's the guy?" Zoe froze. "What?" Olivia grinned. "Don't play dumb. You've been glowing for weeks. I know that look." Panic fluttered in Zoe's chest. She tried to play it cool. "There's no guy. I've just been busy with school." Olivia rolled her eyes. "Sure, January." Zoe laughed, relief flooding her. But as she lay awake that night, she knew the clock was ticking. The truth was coming, whether she was ready or not. A few days later, Ethan texted her. "Meet me at the old bookstore. I have something to tell you." Her heart raced as she made her way through the city, the autumn air crisp and full of possibility. The bookstore was quiet, the smell of old paper and coffee wrapping around her like a hug. Ethan was waiting in the back, a nervous energy about him. He took her hands, his eyes serious. "I love you, Zoe. I know it's messy and I know it's complicated, but I can't keep pretending. I want to be with you. Really be with you." Tears filled her eyes. "I love you too, Ethan. I want that more than anything." He kissed her, slow and sweet, and for a moment the world fell away. But as they left the bookstore hand in hand, Zoe knew their secret wouldn't stay hidden much longer. And when it finally came out, everything would change. The days that followed felt like walking a tightrope. Zoe and Ethan were more careful than ever, but the thrill of being together in secret was starting to wear thin. Every moment they stole felt precious but also fragile, like a glass ornament that could shatter with the slightest touch. Zoe found herself jumping at every unexpected sound, her heart pounding every time Olivia looked at her a little too closely. One afternoon, Zoe was at the library with Olivia, supposedly studying for midterms. But her mind was elsewhere, replaying the last time she'd seen Ethan, the way he'd whispered, "I love you," against her skin, the way his arms had felt around her. She was so lost in thought that she didn't notice Olivia watching her, a frown creasing her brow. "Earth to Zoe," Olivia said, snapping her fingers in front of Zoe's face. Zoe blinked, startled. "Sorry? Just tired." Olivia studied her for a moment, then sighed. "You know, you can tell me anything, right? I feel like you're keeping something from me." Guilt twisted in Zoe's stomach. She wanted to tell Olivia the truth, to spill everything and beg for forgiveness. But the words stuck in her throat. "I'm just stressed about school," she lied, forcing a smile. Olivia didn't look convinced, but she let it go. "Okay. But if you ever want to talk, I'm here." Zoe nodded, her heart heavy. She hated lying to her best friend, but she didn't know how to stop. That night, Zoe met Ethan at the park. They sat on the swings, the city lights twinkling in the distance. "I can't keep doing this," Zoe admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I hate lying to her. I hate sneaking around." Ethan reached for her hand, his grip warm and steady. "I know. I hate it too. But I don't want to lose you." She looked at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "What if we tell her? What if we just let it all out?" He hesitated, fear flickering across his face. "Are you sure?" Zoe nodded, her voice trembling. "I don't want to hide anymore. I want to be with you. Really be with you." Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "Okay, we'll tell her. Together." They sat in silence, the decision hanging between them. Zoe felt a strange sense of relief, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was tired of pretending. The next day, Zoe texted Olivia. "Can we talk? Just us." Olivia replied almost immediately. "Of course. Come over after school." Zoe spent the rest of the day in a haze of anxiety, her stomach twisting with nerves. When she arrived at Olivia's house, Ethan was nowhere to be seen. Olivia was waiting in her room, her expression serious. Zoe sat on the edge of the bed, her hands shaking. "There's something I need to tell you. And I need you to let me finish before you say anything." Olivia nodded, her eyes wide. Zoe took a deep breath, her heart pounding. "I'm in love with someone. And I know it's complicated and I know it might hurt you, but I can't keep it a secret anymore." Olivia's brow furrowed. "Who is it?" Zoe hesitated, then forced the words out. "It's Ethan. I'm in love with your brother." For a moment, the room was silent. Olivia stared at her, shock and confusion warring on her face. "You're what?" Zoe nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Liv. I never meant for this to happen. But I love him. And he loves me." Olivia stood, pacing the room. "How long?" "A few months," Zoe admitted. "We tried to fight it, but we couldn't." Olivia shook her head, her voice trembling. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. You're my best friend, Olivia. You're like family to me." Olivia sank onto the bed, her shoulders shaking. "I need some time, Zoe. I need to think." Zoe nodded, her heart breaking. "Take all the time you need. I'm so sorry." She left the house, her chest tight with grief. She texted Ethan, telling him what had happened. He called her immediately, his voice full of worry. Are you okay? Zoe wiped her tears, trying to sound brave. I don't know. I think I just lost my best friend. Ethan was quiet for a moment, then said, You didn't lose me. I'm here. We'll get through this. I promise. That night, Zoe lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her heart aching. She knew she'd done the right thing, but it didn't make it any easier. She missed Olivia already, missed her laugh, her advice, the way she made everything feel lighter. But she also knew she couldn't go back. She couldn't unlove Ethan. And as she drifted off to sleep, she clung to the hope that somehow things would work out. The days after Zoe's confession were some of the loneliest she'd ever known. Olivia didn't text, didn't call, didn't even look at her in the hallways at school. Zoe tried to give her space, but every hour apart felt like a fresh wound. She missed the easy way they used to talk, the comfort of knowing someone always had her back. Now, every memory felt bittersweet, tinged with regret. Ethan was her only solace. He checked in on her constantly, sending sweet messages and meeting her after school for long walks through the city. He tried to make her laugh, tried to remind her that she hadn't lost everything. But even with him, Zoe felt the ache of what she'd given up. One afternoon, as they sat together on a bench in the park, Ethan reached for her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her skin. She'll come around, Zoe. She just needs time. Zoe shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. What if she doesn't? What if I ruined everything? Ethan pulled her close, his voice steady. You didn't ruin anything. You were honest. That's more than most people can say. She leaned into him, letting his warmth steady her. I just wish it didn't hurt so much. He kissed her forehead, holding her tight. Me too. But I'm not going anywhere. We'll get through this together. The next week crawled by. Zoe threw herself into her schoolwork, trying to fill the empty spaces Olivia had left behind. She spent more time with Ethan, letting their love be a balm for her loneliness. They went on late-night drives, shared milkshakes at the diner, and talked about everything. Their fears, their dreams, the future they hoped to build. One night, as they sat on the hood of Ethan's car, watching the stars blink to life above the city, Zoe turned to him, her voice soft. Do you ever regret it? Us. Ethan shook his head, his eyes shining in the moonlight. Never. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. She smiled, her heart swelling. Even if it means losing Olivia? He hesitated, then squeezed her hand. I hope I don't have to choose. But if I do, I choose you. Zoe blinked back, tears, overwhelmed by the depth of his love. I choose you too. The next morning, Zoe woke to a text from Olivia. Can we talk? Her heart leapt and twisted at the same time. She replied immediately, agreeing to meet at their favorite coffee shop after school. When Zoe arrived, Olivia was already there, sitting at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a mug. She looked tired, her eyes red-rimmed, but she managed a small smile as Zoe sat down. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them was thick with everything unsaid. Finally, Olivia broke the silence. I'm still mad, Zoe. I feel like you broke my trust. But I also know I can't stay mad forever. You're my best friend. And I want you to be happy. Zoe's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, Liv. I never wanted to hurt you. I couldn't help how I felt. Olivia nodded, her voice trembling. I get it. And honestly, I should have seen it coming. You two have always had this thing. I just didn't want to admit it. Zoe reached across the table, her hand shaking. Can we fix this? Can we go back to how things were? Olivia squeezed her hand, a sad smile on her lips. I don't know if we can go back. But maybe we can move forward. It'll take time, but I want to try. Relief flooded Zoe, mingling with gratitude and hope. Thank you, Liv. I'll do whatever it takes. They sat together, talking quietly, rebuilding the bridge that had nearly burned. It wasn't perfect, there were still wounds, still things that needed to be said, but it was a start. Afterward, Zoe texted Ethan, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. She wants to try. We're going to be okay. He replied instantly. I knew she would. I'm proud of you. That night, Zoe lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, a small smile on her lips. She knew there would be more hard days ahead, more conversations, more healing. But for the first time in a long time, she felt hope. She drifted off to sleep thinking of Ethan, Of his steady hands, his quiet strength, the way he made her feel brave. She knew their love wasn't easy, wasn't simple, but it was real. And that was enough. Spring arrived in the city, and with it came a sense of renewal. Zoe felt it in the air, in the way the trees along the streets burst into bloom, in the sunlight that lingered a little longer each evening. She and Olivia weren't quite back to normal, but the worst of the tension had faded. They texted more, met up for coffee, and even managed to laugh together again. There were still moments of awkwardness, still things left unsaid, but Zoe was grateful for every step forward. Ethan noticed the change too. He was gentler with Zoe, more patient, never pushing her to move faster than she was ready. They spent their afternoons exploring the city, visiting art galleries, trying new restaurants, wandering through parks hand in hand. For the first time, Zoe let herself imagine a future with him, one where they didn't have to hide, where love wasn't something to be ashamed of. One Saturday, Ethan surprised her with tickets to a concert. "I know you've been dying to see them live," he said, grinning as he handed her the envelope. Zoe's eyes lit up. "Are you serious?" "Ethan, this is amazing." He laughed, pulling her into a hug. "You deserve it. After everything we've been through, I just want to see you happy." The concert was everything Zoe had hoped for, loud, wild, full of energy. She and Ethan danced and sang along, losing themselves in the music and the crowd. For a few hours there were no secrets, no worries, just the two of them and the beat of the drums. Afterward, they walked through the city, the night air cool and sweet. Ethan stopped on a quiet street, turning to face her. "I want to ask you something," he said, his voice serious. Zoe's heart skipped. "What is it?" He took her hands, his eyes searching hers. "Will you go to prom with me?" She laughed, relief and joy bubbling up inside her. "Of course I will. I thought you'd never ask." He grinned, pulling her close. "I wanted to do it right. You deserve the best." They kissed under the streetlights, the city humming around them, and for the first time, Zoe felt like everything might actually work out. The weeks leading up to prom were a whirlwind of excitement. Zoe and Olivia went dress shopping together, giggling as they tried on gown after gown. It felt almost normal, almost like old times. Olivia even helped Zoe pick out the perfect dress, a soft blue that made her eyes shine. On the night of prom, Ethan arrived at Zoe's apartment with a bouquet of wildflowers. He looked nervous, but when he saw her, his face lit up. "You look beautiful," he whispered, his voice full of awe. Zoe blushed, her heart fluttering. "You clean up pretty well yourself." They took photos with Olivia and her date, laughing and making silly faces. For a moment, Zoe let herself believe that everything was okay, that the past few months hadn't changed anything important. At the dance, Ethan and Zoe stuck close together, swaying to slow songs and losing themselves in the music. Olivia watched them from across the room, her expression unreadable. Zoe's heart ached, but when Olivia caught her eye and smiled, a real, genuine smile, she felt a wave of relief. Later, as the night wound down, Ethan led Zoe outside to the school courtyard. The air was cool, the stars bright above them. "I know this hasn't been easy," he said, his voice soft. "But I wouldn't trade a single moment. You're worth every risk, every hard conversation, every sleepless night." Zoe reached for his hand, her eyes shining. "I feel the same way. I never thought I'd find something like this, something so real." He smiled, pulling her close. "I love you, Zoe. I want everyone to know it. I don't want to hide anymore." She nodded, her heart full. "Me neither." They kissed under the stars, the world falling away until it was just the two of them, wrapped in the promise of something new. The next day, Zoe posted a photo of her and Ethan at prom. She hesitated before hitting share, her finger hovering over the screen. But then she thought of everything they'd been through, everything they'd risked for this love. She pressed the button, her heart pounding. The response was immediate. Some friends were surprised, some supportive, a few even jealous. Olivia commented with a string of heart emojis, and Zoe felt tears prick her eyes. For the first time, their love wasn't a secret. For the first time, Zoe felt free. Summer arrived with a rush of heat and possibility. School ended, and the city seemed to exhale, its streets filling with music, laughter, and the scent of blooming flowers. Zoe and Ethan spent their days exploring every corner of their world. Picnics in the park, late-night drives with the windows down, lazy afternoons spent reading side by side in the shade. The fear and secrecy that had once defined their relationship faded, replaced by a sense of ease and belonging. Olivia was part of their lives again too. It wasn't always perfect. There were still moments of awkwardness, still times when Zoe caught Olivia watching her and Ethan with a complicated look in her eyes. But the three of them found a new rhythm, one built on honesty and forgiveness. Sometimes Olivia would tease them, rolling her eyes at their inside jokes, but Zoe could tell she was happy for them, even if it still stung a little. One evening, the three of them sat on Olivia's porch, sharing a carton of ice cream and watching the fireflies dance in the warm air. Olivia nudged Zoe, a mischievous glint in her eye. "So, when are you two going to make it official? Like Instagram official wasn't enough." Ethan laughed, slinging an arm around Zoe's shoulders. "I thought we already were." Zoe grinned, leaning into him. "I think she means when are you going to ask me to be your girlfriend, like for real?" Ethan turned to her, his eyes soft. "Zoe, will you be my girlfriend? For real, for real?" She laughed, her heart light. "Yes, for real." Olivia groaned, but she was smiling. "You two are disgustingly cute." The summer stretched out before them, full of promise. Zoe got a job at a local art supply store, saving up for college. Ethan worked at a coffee shop, his easy charm earning him plenty of tips. They spent their evenings together talking about the future. About college, about dreams, about the possibility of making it work even when life pulled them in different directions. One night, as they lay on the hood of Ethan's car, watching the stars, Zoe turned to him, her voice quiet. "Do you ever worry about what happens next? When we go to different schools, when everything changes?" Ethan was silent for a moment, then shook his head. "I used to, but not anymore. I think we're strong enough to handle it. I think we're worth fighting for." She smiled, hope blooming in her chest. "Me too." They made a promise that night, to always be honest, to always fight for each other no matter what the future held. As the weeks passed, Zoe felt herself growing, changing. She was braver now, more sure of herself. She started painting again, filling canvas after canvas with color and light. Ethan was her biggest fan, always encouraging her, always believing in her even when she doubted herself. Olivia found her own happiness too. She started dating someone new, a sweet, funny guy from her summer job. Zoe was happy for her, relieved to see her best friend smiling again. One afternoon, the three of them went to the lake, spending the day swimming, laughing, and soaking up the sun. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Zoe realized how far they'd come. The pain and secrecy of the past felt distant, replaced by something stronger: love, forgiveness, and the knowledge that they could survive anything together. That night, as Zoe and Ethan walked home, hand in hand, Ethan stopped under a street lamp, turning to face her. "I know we're young and I know we have a lot to figure out," he said, his voice steady. "But I love you, Zoe. I want to be with you, now and in the future. Whatever that looks like." Zoe felt tears prick her eyes, happiness swelling in her chest. "I love you too, Ethan. I want all of it. The good, the hard, the messy. As long as it's with you." He kissed her, slow and sweet, the world fading away until it was just the two of them, wrapped in the promise of forever. As summer turned to fall, Zoe and Ethan prepared for the next chapter. They packed for college, said goodbye to old routines, and faced the uncertainty of the future with hope. Olivia helped them move into their dorms, hugging them tight and promising to visit. On their first night apart, Zoe lay in her new room, staring at the ceiling, her phone buzzing with a message from Ethan. "I miss you already, but I know we're going to be okay. I love you." She smiled, typing back, "I love you too. Always." College was a new world, bigger, louder, and full of possibility. Zoe threw herself into her classes, her art, and the swirl of new faces and experiences. She missed Ethan fiercely, but their promise to each other held strong. They texted constantly, sent each other photos of their days, and called late at night, sharing stories until one of them fell asleep mid-sentence. The distance was hard, but it made every reunion sweeter. Ethan visited on weekends when he could, showing up with coffee and flowers, his smile lighting up her tiny dorm room. They explored the city together, finding new favorite spots. An old bookstore tucked away on a side street, a rooftop cafe with the best view of the skyline, a quiet park where they could just be themselves. Every moment felt precious, a reminder of how lucky they were to have found each other. Zoe's art flourished. She joined the campus art club, her paintings growing bolder and more confident. She painted Ethan often, sometimes just his hands, sometimes the curve of his smile, sometimes the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. Her professors noticed, encouraging her to submit her work to student shows. For the first time, Zoe started to believe in her own talent. Ethan was thriving too. He made friends easily, joined the intramural soccer team, and even started writing music again, a hobby he'd abandoned in high school. He sent Zoe voice memos of new songs, some silly, some heartbreakingly sweet. She listened to them on repeat, feeling close to him even when he was miles away. Olivia visited often, bringing stories from home and filling Zoe's dorm with laughter. The three of them went on adventures whenever they could: road trips to the beach, late-night diners, impromptu karaoke sessions. Their friendship had changed, but it was stronger for everything they'd survived. Of course, there were hard days. Days when the distance felt like too much, when Zoe missed Ethan so much it hurt, when she worried about the future. There were arguments too, misunderstandings, jealousy, the stress of balancing school and love. But every time they found their way back to each other, choosing forgiveness and honesty over pride. One chilly October weekend, Ethan surprised Zoe by showing up unannounced. She opened her door to find him standing there, shivering and grinning, a pumpkin spice latte in one hand and a sketchbook in the other. "I couldn't stay away," he said, pulling her into a hug. They spent the weekend wrapped up in each other, exploring the city, talking about everything and nothing. On Sunday afternoon, they sat in the park, leaves swirling around them, the sky a brilliant blue. Ethan turned to her, his eyes serious. "I know we're still figuring things out, but I want you to know, I'm in this for the long haul. I want to build a life with you, Zoe. Whatever that looks like." Zoe felt tears prick her eyes, her heart full. "Me too. I want all of it. The late night calls, the road trips, the hard days, the good days. I want you." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then let's keep choosing each other. Every day." They sealed the promise with a kiss, the world spinning around them, the future wide open. As the months passed, Zoe and Ethan settled into their new normal. They visited each other as often as they could, made new friends, chased new dreams. Zoe's art was accepted into a major student exhibition, and Ethan's band played their first real gig. They celebrated every victory, comforted each other through every setback. Through it all, their love remained the constant, the thing that grounded them, that reminded them who they were and what they meant to each other. They learned to trust, to communicate, to forgive. They learned that love wasn't always easy, but it was always worth it. On the anniversary of the night they first kissed, Ethan took Zoe back to the park where it all began. The city was quiet, the air crisp with the promise of winter. They sat on the same bench, hands entwined, hearts full. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Ethan asked, his voice soft. Zoe smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "All the time. I never thought we'd make it here. But I'm so glad we did." He kissed her forehead, his voice full of wonder. "Me too. I wouldn't change a thing." They sat together in the fading light, the city humming around them, the future stretching out before them. Uncertain, yes, but full of hope. As they walked home, Zoe felt a sense of peace settle over her. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, more hard days, more moments of doubt. But she also knew that whatever happened, they would face it together. Because some loves are worth fighting for. Some loves are worth every risk, every heartbreak, every sleepless night. And as Zoe slipped her hand into Ethan's, she knew, without a doubt, that theirs was one of them. Years from now, Zoe would look back on those days and smile. She'd remember the fear, the longing, the impossible choice, and how love had been worth it all. She and Ethan built a life together, one full of art, laughter, and the kind of friendship that never faded. Olivia remained by their side, proof that forgiveness could heal even the deepest wounds. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was real, messy, beautiful, and entirely their own. And every day, as Zoe woke up beside the boy she once thought she could never have, she knew she'd choose him again.